13. In the world of K-pop, that number is a logistical nightmare. 13 voices, 13 personalities, 13 egos, all fighting for the spotlight. It's a number that should have fractured, that should have broken under its own weight. But for 17, the number 13 didn't become their weakness. It became their unbreakable shield. This is the story of how they achieved the impossible. Before the sold-out stadiums, before the roaring chants of CARAT, before the world knew their name, there was only a small subterranean room painted a sickly shade of Melona green. For years, this was their entire universe, a place fans would affectionately call the Melona Prison, where their youth was broadcast to a handful of viewers online through a raw reality show called 17 TV. It wasn't a stage, it was a fishbowl, a holding cell where their every struggle, every laugh, and every exhausted collapse was put on constant display. Here, the promise of a debut was a distant, shifting mirage. The lineup was a cruel, ever-changing puzzle. Trainees would appear one day with hopeful eyes and vanish the next without a word. Their empty space in the practice room, a silent reminder of how precarious their own position was. This wasn't just training, it was a state of purgatory, an endless tide of waiting and suffocating uncertainty. This uncertainty was amplified by the harsh reality of their circumstances. Their company, Pledis Entertainment, was struggling, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. This wasn't a challenge of artistry. It was a daily battle for basic needs. The 13 boys were crammed into a small dorm with a single bathroom, a logistical nightmare that forged an unbreakable patience. When they appeared on variety shows, where other groups would win prizes of luxury beef or massage chairs, 17 would humbly ask for laundry detergent and shampoo, essentials that quickly ran out with so many people. There are stories, now legendary among fans, of them having to hide snacks from staff, not out of teenage mischief, but because they were genuinely, painfully hungry. In this barren environment of scarcity, a fundamental law of their universe was forged. If they didn't take care of each other, absolutely no one else would. They became a family not by choice, but by absolute necessity. They learned to share every meal, to read each other's moods with a single glance, to instinctively form a protective circle around whoever was faltering. The pressure didn't fracture them, it fused them. The intense heat of that green-walled forge burned away their individual insecurities and welded them into a single, unbreakable whole. When your company can't afford a legion of hit-making producers and choreographers, what do? You become them. The identity that would come to define 17, the self-producing idols, wasn't a clever marketing gimmick. It was a desperate and brilliant act of survival. The musical soul of the group, Woozi, began composing not as a hobby, but as a lifeline. Hunched over a borrowed laptop in a dimly lit room, he taught himself the language of music production, tinkering with GarageBand, meticulously searching for a sound that could carry the weight of their collective dream. Imagine the pressure. At just 19 years old, he held the musical fate of 12 other boys in his hands. He later confessed his deepest fear from that time. I feel like I am the one who will determine all 13 members' future. If things don't work out for us, what will I do? Every chord he wrote, every melody he hummed was a brick in the foundation of their escape from that basement. And how do you make 13 bodies move as one cohesive, breathtaking organism? You become the architect of movement yourself. Hoshi, the fiery leader of the performance team, took on the impossible task of transforming the chaos of 13 individuals into the poetry of a unified whole. He wasn't just teaching dance moves, he was forging a new visual language. His choreographies, even from their debut, were like miniature theatrical productions, full of narrative, wit, and spectacle. He had to be more than a dancer. He had to be an inventor, finding ingenious ways to make their large number a spectacular advantage, not a cluttered weakness. And holding this fragile, burgeoning creation together was the general leader, S.Coups. The longest-serving trainee, he had seen the company's promises rise and fall more times than anyone. His role transcended that of a typical leader. He was the father, the big brother, and the reluctant diplomat for a dozen teenagers caught between hope and despair. He was the anchor, not by shouting the loudest, but by learning to listen the hardest. For most groups, a debut is marked by a song or a stage. For 17, it was marked by a ring. Imagine the moment. After years spent in the purgatory of that green room, where the future was a shapeless, terrifying fog, a simple silver ring is placed in your hand. For these boys, it wasn't just jewelry. It was a key, a passport. It was the official confirmation from their company's CEO. The endless waiting was over. They were no longer just trainees. They were 17. Each ring was a ticket out, a tangible symbol that they had survived the tide. Together, it was a promise of a future, a physical manifestation of their hard-won bond, worn on their smallest finger as a constant, cool-metalled reminder of their shared identity. The weight of it on their hand was the weight of a dream finally made real. But that promise, so newly given, was immediately and cruelly tested. In a dramatic twist for their debut reality show, 17 Project, the company took the rings away. One by one, the symbol of their unity was reclaimed, leaving their hands bare once more. The official reason was that they were not yet ready to bear the name 17. The mission of the show was to prove, through a series of grueling challenges, that they could earn them back. This wasn't just a plot for television, it was a profound psychological trial. Their very identity, which had just been granted, was immediately rescinded. The rings were no longer just a gift, they were now a prize to be won, a vow they had to fight for to prove they were worthy of the brotherhood they had already forged in the deepest fires of hardship. And in the final, emotional ceremony of the show, it wasn't the CEO who returned the rings, it was their parents. Imagine that scene. Mothers and fathers who had watched their sons sacrifice their youth for an uncertain dream now stood before them. In that moment, as they placed the rings back on their sons' fingers, the symbolism was transformed forever. It was an act of blessing, a transfer of love from their birth families to this new, unbreakable found family of 13. The promise was no longer a contract with a company. It was a sacred vow witnessed by their families, cemented in tears, sacrifice, and unconditional love. That vow has been renewed with every full album since, a tradition that has become legendary. A new era brings a new, more intricate ring, each one marking another circle of growth like the rings of a great ancient tree. This tradition is so sacred, so deeply personal to the bond between the group and their fandom, that when the company once tried to sell replicas as official merchandise, CARATs protested fiercely and successfully. They understood. This symbol wasn't for sale. It wasn't a piece of memorabilia. It is a testament. It doesn't belong to the company or even to the fans. It belongs to the 13th of them. It is their unbreakable contract, their shared soul, worn on their hands for the world to see, a constant shining reminder of the family they chose and the promise they keep. On stage, the product of this brotherhood is undeniable. It is a tangible electric force that has earned them the nickname, the theater kids of Kpop. This isn't an insult, it's the highest compliment. It acknowledges that a 17 performance is never just a dance. It is a one-act play. It is a musical. It is a story told with 13 synchronized bodies, moving as a single expressive soul in a world where most groups are content to simply execute a choreography. From the very beginning, this was their language. With songs like Adore You and Pretty You, they transformed the stage into a scene from a vibrant, youthful musical. They didn't just use props like couches, they lived within them, creating a dynamic slice-of-life world. Their playful interactions, the charming chases, the little narrative moments. This wasn't the distant, cool perfection of typical K-pop. It was warm, inviting, and full of character and wit. They were telling boyish love stories, not just with their voices, but with their entire beings, breaking the fourth wall and inviting the audience into their world. Then came Don't Wanna Cry, a watershed moment that redefined what a large group could convey emotionally. The tone shifted from a bright stage to a desolate, sweeping landscape. This wasn't just about perfect timing, it was a physical manifestation of shared sorrow. The fluid contemporary movements inspired by modern dance were a risky departure from traditional K-pop. The moments of falling and being caught, of leaning back into empty space with complete faith. That is not technique, that is trust. That is the muscle memory of knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that 12 other people will always be there to break your fall, literally and figuratively. The performance shocked the industry, proving that this large, seemingly chaotic group could deliver a level of emotional synchronicity and artistic depth that was breathtaking. It is the art of expressing a singular, heartbreaking emotion through 13 different hearts beating as one. And then there is the pure, unadulterated chaos of Aju Nice, a song so full of explosive, joyful energy it simply cannot be contained in a single performance. It has become a legendary concert tradition, the never-ending Aju Nice. The song ends, the lights go down, the members feign exhaustion and say their goodbyes, only for the iconic opening beat to blast through the stadium speakers once more, sending them and tens of thousands of fans into a frenzy. It will play again and again and again, sometimes for more than 10 minutes straight. It's an inside joke between them and their fans, a beloved ritual, a test of endurance, and a promise to their CARATs. As long as you have the energy, we refuse to let this moment end. It's the perfect, chaotic encore for a group that has built an entire career on defying endings. Which 17 performance do you think perfectly captures their brotherhood? Let us know in the comments. In the world of K-pop, there is a shadow that looms over every successful group, a silent monster that devours even the most beloved acts. The 7-year curse. It is the industry's great filter, the point where contracts expire and the immense pressure of years of relentless work finally cracks the foundation. Creative differences, physical exhaustion, the simple desire for a normal life, all of it culminates in this rite of passage, leading so many groups to disband or lose members. For a group of 13, with 13 different paths and 13 different pressures, the statistical probability of fracturing was exponentially higher. The industry watched and waited for the inevitable, but 17 has always been the author of their own story. They do not follow the rules, they write them. In July of 2021, a full year before their contracts were even set to expire, Pledis Entertainment made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the industry. All 13 members of 17 had renewed their contracts. It was an almost unprecedented act, a statement of defiance against the industry's most notorious curse. They didn't just break the curse, they preemptively shattered it on their own terms, proving once again that the normal rules of K-pop did not apply to them. Why did they do it when so many others had chosen freedom? The members' answer was simple, profound, and perfectly in character. Leader S.Coups explained it with a quiet confidence. Since the beginning, we have felt that the 13 of us would continue to be together. They reaffirmed their identity as one team, a decision rooted not in complex business calculations, but in the trust and strong teamwork they had forged over a decade of shared history. It was a business decision made with the heart, a collective choice by 13 equal partners who understood that their greatest strength was, and always would be, each other. This was the ultimate culmination of their journey. The 13 boys who huddled for warmth and shared ramen in a small green room chose to share their future. The 13 artists who learned to compose their own lifeline chose to compose their next decade together. The 13 brothers who fought to earn back the rings that symbolized their promise chose to forge a new, even stronger one. They chose each other. Again. Decisively and together. The story of 17 is not about the miracle of 13 individuals staying together. It's about the undeniable fact that they were never truly 13 individuals to begin with. They were forged into one single, unbreakable entity in the fires of that basement. The promise they made to each other in quiet desperation is the same promise that now echoes in sold-out stadiums across the globe. The tide of brotherhood that swept them together against all odds continues to rise, more powerful than ever. The symphony they composed out of necessity is now a masterpiece, and it is far from over. If the journey of 17 and their unbreakable bond inspired you, subscribe for more stories like this. The symphony is still being written, and we'll be here to listen to every note.